What's the best strategy out there to save massive amounts of time on the ACT science section? That's exactly what I'm going to show you in today's video. So here's a bold claim for you today. The science section on the ACT is, I say, the most make or break section of the whole test. And it's make or break because often students decide whether to even take the ACT versus the digital SAT based primarily on their capabilities in this section. P.S. If you're unsure which test to take, check out my quiz, digital SAT or ACT, in the link below. Yeah, I'm a test prep expert with over 14 years experience. And over the course of my time getting students amazing scores on their SATs and ACTs, I've learned a little known fact. There are ways to hack the ACT science section, whether or not you're like a science head or not. So in this video, I'm going to let you in on another little known fact. So the Castle method, which is a process I invented and a name I came up with, is going to help you get through the science section faster and with more points than any other tool out there. But first, before we can get to the Castle method, we need to understand how the science section works as a whole, because then you'll understand why this even works. So let's do a quick breakdown of the ACT's science section. Yeah, the science section is the last, it's the fourth section of your ACT. There's 40 questions in it. If you're a regular time test taker, you get 35 minutes to do all of these 40 questions. If you just want to think of it in terms of numbers and you do the math, that's roughly 52 seconds a question, which is a dauntingly short amount of time. However, the science section has a crucial difference to it from the ACT's English or math sections. English and math, for the most part, pretty much every one of those questions are what we call discrete, like question your ability to understand it has no bearing on if you can answer the very next question. Science is different. It gives us 6 or 7 question clusters that all relate to a specific passage. So you need to be able to parse through that science passage in a basic way, at least, to get the relevant questions correct. So how does this play out in terms of type of questions? In the science section, you have 6 passages total. Now, 3 of these are what we are going to call experiments passages. They all have 7 questions each. 2 of these passages are chart and graphs passages, interpreting data. These are going to have 6 questions each. And then finally, there's one passage that I call a fighting scientist passage. Some people call it a conflicting scientific viewpoint passage. And that passage is going to have 7 questions in it. To sum up, the ACT science is divvied up like this. There's 40 questions in 35 minutes if you're a regular time test taker. Multiply that by 1.5 if you're extended time, or multiply that by 2 if you're double time, etc. There's 6 passages. 3 of the passages are the experiment passages. They have 7 questions apiece. Thus, 21 questions are from those 3 experiment passages. 2 passages are chart and graph passages, each with 6 questions. So there's going to be 12 questions total for those chart and graph passages. And then there's that singular fighting scientist passage with its 7 questions. So before I go into showing you my very favorite method for tackling most of the ACT science questions, I need to give you a basic rule to go by. So yeah, my one-on-one tutoring students, they get a much more detailed explanation, but for the sake of getting you to my favorite strategy ever, I'm just going to tell you this little preamble, and you're just going to have to go with me and believe me. You ready? So for that fighting scientist passage, that one you actually need to read first and understand before you answer the question. But for all the other passages, all the other 5 passages, the chart and graphs and experiments passage, just start answering the questions and refer back to the actual paragraphs of text only if you truly cannot determine the answer from the chart, the graph, the table, or the figure. So you're just going to have to believe me on this one. If you're unsure which type of passage it is, err on the side of answering the questions first and just referring to the passage as needed. Okay? Already, we haven't even gotten to the main point of this video yet. Do you already see how you could save so many seconds per question, and thus per passage, and thus for this section already? But the thing is, we're not even done yet. So what you've learned just now, that's only a foundation for even beginning to answer all 40 questions within that tight time frame you're working with. So before I get to that, Hey there. If we have not met yet, my name is Kristina of Ivy Lounge Test Prep. So I help high schoolers all over the globe get into their dream colleges by helping them drastically raise their SAT and ACT test scores and by helping them craft killer college application essays. Right now, I want to ask you a question, and that is, do you currently have trouble answering the science passages within the time frame of that section? If you don't have any timing troubles, I mean, good for you, but what is your biggest, ACT science obstacle? I really want to know. So please answer me in the comments below. And while you're at it, please go ahead and like this video and also just subscribe to my channel. I would really feel so honored. So now is the time for the bread and butter of my method, how to cut through the chaff and get right to the wheat, aka the right answer, and get your points on the ACT science section. So regardless of whether a passage is in the charts and graphs passage or not, there's just going to be many questions in each passage that specifically ask you to interpret a table, a graph, a figure, a chart, etc. However, what I'm here to tell you is this: you can get these questions correct without globally understanding what's happening in the passage as a whole, without critically thinking of how to interpret the data and how this affects that, without knowing any of this science lingo. You can still get the questions right. How can that be true, you might ask? Well, because instead of sweating over generating the correct answer, that requires a deep understanding, and that's, tick-tock on the clock, right? Think of the ACT science questions as merely asking you to locate the answer. You don't have to understand how or why. You need to have remembered that lesson about light refractions from physics class or Mendel squares in biology. You merely need to figure out that if the magnet is 10 centimeters away, there will be a 5-volt current, etc. Don't need to know why, just figure that out, bubble your answer. What a relief, right? Now that you understand that your one goal in this whole section of this big stakes test is just to locate the right bubble for the majority of these questions, riddle me this: would it be easier to locate a fact starting with the details or starting from a big picture? If you don't understand what I'm talking about, do not worry. I'm going to give you an example to illustrate exactly what I mean. So let's say your best friend invited you to her family's medieval castle in Italy, or their chateau in France for the summer. You're thrilled that you're going to be away from home and in this like amazingly beautiful location with your friend. You obviously say yes. So one day you've just, eaten your lunch and your friend says to you, "Hey," insert your name here, "do you mind grabbing my glasses for me while I bring our plates inside?" Like, obviously, you're going to be a grateful guest and you're going to be like, "Yeah, sure, whatever you want. Tell me where to go. I'll get your glasses." However, she gives you directions like this. "Great. It's in the top right drawer of my desk, which is in the right-hand wall of my room, which is on the third door on the left, after you turn right from the stairs on the 5th floor." Do you know where you're going? Because I sure as heck don't, okay? So, like, unless you literally wrote down every word of what she said, I would be very impressed if you were able to even be like in the right quadrant of this castle or chateau. And frankly, you might be lost in this castle for a very long time with that set of directions. However, what if instead she gave you directions like this? Go to the 5th floor and turn right. Go to the third door on the left side of the hall. My desk is on the right wall and my glasses are on the top right drawer. Now, I can't speak to how your mind works, but I know how my mind works and how the mind of like all my tutoring students that I've worked with one-on-one over the last 14 years, how their minds work. And for basically all of us, that second description, it just is infinitely easier to understand and remember. I don't even need to write it down. It's like I see in my head what I'm doing when, and I now know where my friend's glasses are, and I'm not going to get lost in the castle. Why was that second set of directions so much easier to understand than that first set of directions? Give up? It's because it was going from big to small details. So this allows you to narrow down possibilities of where in the castle you need to go. For example, once you know that you're going to the 5th floor, you're never going to be lost on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 6th floor. Like even if you knew nothing else, at least you've eliminated a lot of incorrect rooms to start looking in. So that is the castle method, which is my favorite hack for how to approach most of these ACT science questions. Most ACT science questions should be approached the same way, right? You're going to work from macro to micro, narrowing and narrowing and narrowing until there's literally only like one data point, i.e. number or word left, and that's your answer. Let's see how this is going to actually work with a sample science question. Okay, so I made up a science question and a chart associated with lanternflies because I'm obsessed with these spotted lanternflies and stomping them out. And we are going to answer this using the castle method. Okay, so here is our sample question that I made up and a sample chart. Yes, I know I use color. There's not color on the ACT, but life is prettier in color. So let's read it. So according to figure 2, the number of spotted lanternfly sightings in New Jersey in 2019 was closest to which of the following? And we have 4 choices. And then over here, this is figure 2. So this is how my castle method strategy would work in this question. The moment they say, according to figure 2, that's literally like your friend telling you to look on the 5th floor and not any other floor. You're going to locate figure 2. You're actually going to touch it with your finger or your pencil, like literally touch the page of the test booklet. No other figure or table or chart matters. Your answer is here or it's nowhere. So it's literally here in figure 2 or it's nowhere. In New Jersey, okay, the moment we see in New Jersey, there may be many different things that we could measure in the chart, but you're only going to look at the purple line, the one that says New Jersey. That's literally the only thing we care about. No other line matters. So this would be like turning right and finding the 3rd door on the left in 2019. So now we have this purple line. We are going to locate 2019 on the graph. And we are going to see where this crosses our purple line. And this corresponds to the friend's instructions of my desk is on the right wall and my glasses are in the top right drawer. So whatever data you find there, that is your answer. So looking here, well, we've got 2 different axes. We've got spotted lanternfly sightings in thousands. And then over here, we have New Jersey participants in lanternfly Stomp Them Out campaign. Well, now this said spotted lanternfly sightings. So I am going over here to the left. So I'm looking between the 20 and the 30 in thousands. Out of that, between 20 and 30 looks kind of like a 25 in thousands. My answer choice is going to be C. So I hope it's clear by now that you don't need to understand what a spotted lanternfly even is, or like what Stump Them Out means, or how data of their sightings is even being measured, or like why the graph is changing, or like what's even causing it to change. You just need to use the castle method to go from zoomed out to zoomed in and locate the answer. That, my friends, is my absolute very favorite technique for quickly identifying the correct answers to the majority of ACT science questions while ignoring all the irrelevant data and information that could throw you off and gobble up all your precious time. You're welcome. And if you want even more ACT hacks like the ones I just mentioned in this video, check out my bingeable, self-paced online courses and ebooks for all sections of the ACT. I have an online video course for the ACT's reading section. I have an online video course for the ACT science section. I have an ebook for the ACT's English section and another ebook for the ACT's math section. You can also save big by getting my complete ACT course and ebook bundle. So check it out in the link below.